Getting married to my twin flame, here are the top 3 mistakes where if I could go back in time and change it would have made my journey to union so much easier. I would have felt so much better. Mistake number 1 that I would make a lot of the times is actually getting mentally lost in an emotional trigger more than actually letting myself feel it. And now I noticed that at the beginning of my twin flame journey, I was so very resistant to feeling my emotions. And I really believe that that came from my upbringing and from my childhood, where I simply grew up in a family that was not very emotional. Half of my family is Chinese. And if you know anything about Chinese culture, we are not the most emotionally expressive people. And the other side of my family is British and German, and they're also not the most emotionally expressive people. I believe that a lot of my ancestry was actually keeping me blocked emotionally. And if I could go back in time and redo everything that I did to save time, to save heartache, and to feel better, I would have learned a very specific type of meditation called Vipassana meditation. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a type of meditation where you're sinking into the body. You're becoming super aware of the sensations in your physical body. You're sinking deeply into the emotions, and it's like a full experience where you're not even thinking mentally, but you're so kind of like physicalized and grounded in your body. And I think the reason that if I started doing that sooner, it would have been so much better for my journey is because I would basically have this experience where I have a trigger, right? I feel really dysregulated, physically uncomfortable with the trigger, but I would try to think my way into feeling better when I needed to feel it in order to feel better. And this created so much suffering and uncomfortable emotions for me because I was desperately trying to feel differently, but I didn't want to feel it or didn't know how. You can relate to that. I actually made a Vipassana meditation, which you can use. It's in my school community at school.com/union. I'll also link it in the description. Anyway, send me a DM on there and I will send you the link to the meditation. Anyways, the way that I overcame this first pattern is basically to get really good at feeling my emotions, letting them pass, and not like assigning a meaning to the emotion. So what I've learned being older, being married, having gone through this journey is that my perspective from the past was that if I let myself get triggered and feel this trigger and feel this emotion, I am never going to get out of it. Like I'm just going to spiral and spiral and spiral. But actually, I found that it was the complete opposite. I would spiral mentally because I was holding onto that energy and that emotion and not letting myself feel it and fully process it. Sometimes letting yourself surrender to the depth of that emotion is paradoxically what helps you let it go, right? Like there's a saying, what you resist will persist. And I find that to be so true. Okay, mistake number 2 that I made on my journey to union was assuming that because it's a twin flame connection or because it's a soul connection, that I was 100% responsible for the connection. Now, I still believe that I'm 100% responsible for my own energy and my own choices, my own thought. However, I have come to realize being married that part of the union energy is also kind of about surrendering to the very real reality that when you call in a relationship, when you call in a union, you are vulnerable to how that person chooses to behave and act and speak, etc. And instead of internalizing every trigger or conflict, it's so important to just communicate it, to express how you feel, how something made you feel, and to just decide that that is going to be your reality, that you're just going to be someone who is able to express things in your connection and have it be heard. And any person or situation that isn't willing to truly take into account how you feel, what matters to you, what hurts you, that person is in line with union energy. And so being able to have very strong boundaries around that allows you to actually relax into the connection, to trust it. And I actually feel like setting boundaries and communicating is a non-negotiable aspect of being in the true union energy. Because if you think about true union energy, you are enjoying the connection, you feel loved, you feel respected. And it's like a requirement for there to be that mutual respect and communication. And so don't feel like if you need to communicate something that's difficult, that you are ruining the connection or pushing union away. Actually, it's the opposite. The more that you lean into the uncomfortable experiences of communicating and being yourself and setting boundaries where needed, you create the environment for union to take root. So it's a process of like growing it and anchoring it also in your physical 3D reality. It's not just about, your energy being perfectly aligned. It's also about your aligned actions that you choose to take, because ultimately we're all physical humans and we just have to accept that that is part of what it takes to have union in the physical 3D world. Now, mistake number 3 that I made on my journey to manifesting union was actually in the realm of self-hatred disguised as spiritual healing. And unfortunately, this is something that I see so prevalent in the spiritual community. This has happened to so many of the clients who I've worked with. It's basically this energy that you get into because your initial intention is a positive one. You want to heal. You want to heal yourself into union. You want to do it in a good way to experience that. But we get into this energy that is actually self-rejection and self-hatred, right? So we begin to make how we feel, our triggers, our wounds, our insecurities, we make that the problem, and we kind of blame those parts of ourselves as to why we're not in union, right? But those parts of you don't need you to be extra hard on yourself. They actually need more compassion, more self-love, more understanding, and more validating your own feelings to really be at peace within yourself. And I always say that inner union is very much equivalent to inner peace. Because if you think about inner union, you have harmony and communication and cooperation between the different aspects of yourself. You have achieved inner union or inner peace because you've actually connected to your triggers, the parts of your inner child that are triggered, the voices in your head, the different parts of you that have different emotions, different feelings, etc. And you have soothed yourself. You have actually listened to the things that your inner child has told you that you need to do better, or you need something done differently. Like maybe there's an area of your life where you are kind of bulldozing over those negative feelings or triggers that you have. And maybe what would be aligned and bring you into inner union is to go down the uncomfortable path of really sitting with it, facing that reality of how you feel about yourself, instead of expecting yourself to be perfect. And that's the mistake I made on my journey, is I would expect myself to get through a trigger one time, and I would get mad at myself if that same trigger or that same insecurity came up again. So self-love is also equivalent to being patient with yourself, being patient with your journey, kind of reparenting yourself from this mindset that you will manifest union from truly being in a self-love energy, and you don't need to rush to a finish line. And that is what I found is truly self-loving energy that creates union, because what I've learned from being married is that you need so much patience. And that is not at all a negative thing, but any kind of long-term union, long-term relationship, you're gonna need to be patient with the other person and with yourself. And that's the only way to really have a truly functional, healthy union dynamic. And so just know that all of the self-love that you do in your healing, every single trigger that you get through, and every time that you regulate yourself, you are directly contributing to your ability to hold union in your life in the physical 3D world. A lot of information on this journey will have it seem like if you just do all of the inner work and you just feel perfect all the time, it's just going to manifest. But the actual path to union is quite messy, if I do speak for myself. And so kind of reframing your expectations helps you be more patient with the journey overall, helps you stay aligned. This is really resonating with you. And also, if you guys took my first Union Quiz 1.0, I am releasing the Union Beliefs Block Quiz 2.0 very soon, I think this Tuesday. I'm going to be releasing it within my school community. If you're wanting to know how you are blocked, what you can do to heal, move forward, embody union energy, love yourself, I would love to see you take the quiz on Tuesday. You can join my school community from the link in my bio. Let me know what questions you have, and of course, follow for more.